Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. Professor Chaz here. The lab coat is on back order, and today's video is going to be a video that I've been sort of building towards and mentioning in the past couple of videos, basic deck building. And what we're going to do here is talk about things to keep in mind, like rules you have to follow for making the deck, and suggestions and such, things like that. And what I'm going to be doing is, as recommended by the official Pokemon Incorporated, and I also mentioned it myself too in some videos, good idea to start with a theme deck and then customize that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my Ocean's Core deck, which I opened a few videos back. I'm going to incorporate three of the pretty cool cards I got out of the Elite Trainer box. There we got the Archie's Ace in the Hole Full Art, Wailord-EX, and Swampert with the Ancient trait. So, a couple things to keep in mind for making a deck is it always has to have 60 cards. You can't have more, you can't have less. It's got to be an even number of 60. And you have to have at least one basic Pokemon in your deck in order to make it playable. Because when you start the game, if you can't play a basic down as your active Pokemon, then you just simply can't play the game. So it needs at least one basic. You're going to want to have more than one basic because of 60 cards, the chances of drawing that one basic in your starting hand is pretty minimal. And like I mentioned in the How to Play video, every time you start a hand without a basic, your opponent gets to draw an extra card to start the game. So they could have an entire setup by the time you get that basic. Now, the other thing is you can't have more than 4 of any particular named card. Like, for example, Swampert, I couldn't have 5 Swamperts in there. I could only have up to 4. The only exception to that is basic energy cards, which technically don't really have a name, so to say. You can have as many of those as you want. You can have like 15 fire energy, 20 water energy. You're not going to want to have that many usually. You need to be able to sort of balance out the card types. So that is basically all the rules you need for making a deck if you're going to be playing just casually in free play. Another thing to keep in mind, if you do want to play competitively, there are official formats that have to be followed if you're going to partake in like official Pokemon tournaments as organized by Pokemon Incorporated or Pokemon International, one of those. Pokemon I. Now, the 3 formats that they follow, the main one is called Standard, which is used at all of their premier events, such as, for example, the World Tournament. And unless otherwise specified, Standard is the standard format. They also included Expanded format in the 2015 season, which is essentially Standard but just bigger, expanded, you know, like as the name implies. The third format is Unlimited. Now what this basically means is it's going to limit what sets, like what expansions you can make a deck of cards from. Now for example, the standard one for 2015, standard format is including all sets from the Black and White Boundaries Crossed expansion, which was released back in November of 2012, and every expansion that's been released since then up to today. And as new expansions come out, for example, the Roaring Skies expansion that will be out in, I think, May 6th this year. After 3 weeks have passed when the expansion has been released, those cards become legal to be added into official decks as well. So that means with the standard format, you have over 10 expansions of cards to choose from for making your deck. So you do have a lot of versatility in options of cards to choose for your deck. Expanded is, like I said, just like Standard, just there's more options. Expanded is including, for the 2015 season, the Black and White base set, which was released in April of 2011, and then all following expansions up to today. And it's Expanded is being used in some premier events, and if you're ever signing up for an official tournament, the tournament organizer should specify what format's going to be used for that particular event, so you'll know what kind of cards to use for your decks, like how to strategize and what cards might not be available for you to use and what cards are available. And the final format is called Unlimited, which essentially means any card from any set can be used. That's right, even base set Ghastly. But one thing to keep in mind is if you're using a card from a previous expansion that has later been reprinted in a more recent expansion, if the wording on the card is different, for an official event, you have to use that old card as if it's using the new card's wording. Now an example would be Great Ball. I believe the original Great Ball said something along the lines of search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon. Might have been just been 1, but anyway, search your deck for basic Pokemon and put them on your bench, and then shuffle your deck. The new Great Ball is actually worded to say, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose one of the Pokemon you find there and put it in your hand, and then shuffle. So even though you could play with the old Great Ball, an official event would require you to use that old Great Ball as if the new wording is written on that card. So that is basically all there is to Unlimited, and just as the name implies, there's no limit to what cards you can put in outside of whatever banned cards there might happen to be. And I'm not that up to speed on which cards are banned or not. But those are the basic formats. Now what we're going to do is, keeping that in mind, I'm going to be making a standard format deck of Ocean's Core and including other cards. Now, some suggestions. When you're making a new theme deck, or not theme deck, when you're making a new custom deck, either from a theme deck or whatever other cards you have, it's a good idea to focus on just 1 or 2 different types of energy. Because, for example, let's say you're focusing on like Raichu, Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise. That's right, the original starters. You're going to be having electric, fire, water, and grass in that case. Lightning, fire, water, and grass. And that means you have to include a lot of different types of energy cards, which means it's going to be more difficult to get the cards you need. So let's say you have Blastoise active, and all you keep drawing is fire energy. Well, Blastoise isn't going to be able to be used to its full effectiveness if you can't get the water energy needed for Blastoise, and essentially it's just going to be out there taking hits, and you might lose Blastoise before you can actually use it in battle. So, good idea to start with just 1 or 2 energy types and then go from there. And like I said before, focus on what your best cards are and go with that. So that's why I'm going to be using the Ocean's Core deck and adding in more water types. And another good recommendation is focus on a couple different strategies for your deck. Don't just put all of your eggs in one basket, as they say, like, focus on one guy. If I was going to, for example, say, I'm going to just focus on Wailord-EX as my attacker, and everything else is going to support that. What would I do if Wailord-EX is one of my 6 prizes at the start of the game? I wouldn't be prepared for any other battling, and I would probably just lose the game after a while. So, another thing is, if I do have Wailord-EX out and he's doing his thing, he's knocking out Pokemon, if he gets knocked out and I have no other options or strategies for battle, then I'm kind of in a bad spot as well, because now he's gone and my strategy is out the window. So focus on a couple different strategies, not always just Pokemon, but other like trainer cards, things you can do to keep yourself in the game. That's why I'll be including Archie's Ace in the Hole. If Wailord's knocked out, I do have a chance to bring him back with Archie. And another recommendation they say is energy cards. They say 18 to 22 energy cards. That's pretty good. I say start with 20 and edit your deck from there and just see what you can do to change it up and make things a little bit better. I say it's good to start with 20 Pokemon, 20 trainer cards, and 20 energies, because with a 60 card deck, that's an equal amount of either type of card. And speaking of trainers, the official Pokemon How to Play mentions, I think it says 13 to 20 trainer cards, and that's a pretty good recommendation too. I've noticed a lot of the World Championship decks have a lot of trainer cards. They seem to be running low on energy and Pokemon, and they can have up to, like, say, 30, 35 trainer cards. Because those cards are the ones that are going to sort of turn the tide of battle every turn and help you win the game. Now, all those recommendations in mind, we're going to finally crack into this stuff, and I'll show you what I have planned in mind for customizing the Ocean's Core deck. Alright, so here we have the Ocean's Core deck all laid out here. As you can see, I listed them in Pokemon, we've got the trainers, and the energy cards here. Now, starting off, I'm going to be looking at the Pokemon cards first. As you can see, the majority of the cards in the theme deck are Pokemon. There's actually 30 of these guys. They got 12 trainer cards and 18 energy. Now, a lot of this stuff is not going to remain in the deck after I've customized it. So, what we're going to do is take a look at all these Pokemon. I'm only going to keep 4 of these, actually. Now, it seems it's almost hard to do, but Kyogre, sorry, you're not going in the deck. You're pretty cool and all. If you were an EX, maybe I might keep you in there. But the Kyogres, the Walrein family, all these guys are just basically going by the wayside. Just going to slide them out of the way here. And all the fire ones as well too. This particular deck, I'm going to focus on making it a water and fairy themed deck, and I'll explain why as I explain the Pokemon as I reveal them here. So, the cards we're keeping of those 30 Pokemon, we have 2 Marshtomps and 2 Mudkips. The reason being is because, as you know, one card we're going to add in is the Swampert. Now, he's going to be one of the main attackers because his Hydro Pump is really powerful. It's 40 damage, plus for every water energy attached to him, you get an extra 30 damage on top of that. So if you have, and so basically Hydro Pump needs any energy to be able to use it. But if you have 3 water energy, it's going to do 30 times 3 is 90, 40 more. 130 damage already using just Swampert. So he's actually really powerful. Another reason I'm going to be using him is the ability. I think I might have mentioned it when I first unboxed it, the trainer box, but the ability here lets you search your deck for any one card you need, then put it on top of your deck. So that's actually a really useful ability, and it's got the ancient trait, Alpha Growth. Every time I attach an energy card to Swampert, I get to attach a second one as well. So you can power him up really quickly. I'm going to add him into the deck, and along with that, I'm going to include a couple more Mudkips, just so I can get more chances of having Swampert into play. When you're designing your deck, it's a good idea to go 1 stage 2, 2 stage 1s, and at least 3 basics, because if you only have one of each, it's going to be that much harder. Like if I have Mudkip out and it's my only Mudkip in the deck, if it gets knocked out, I simply can't play Marshtomp or Swampert anymore because I have no Mudkip to evolve from. So there's the first addition, or I guess the first 3. The next one we will add into the deck will be the heavy hitter, Wailord-EX. Essentially, I am going to focus on him being a main attacker because he does a lot of damage, although it takes a lot of energy to use, and does put himself to sleep. But the ability, Water Veil, whenever I attach an energy from hand to Wailord-EX, I get to remove special conditions such as sleep. So, not as easy to use, and as I just said, Swampert can do more damage with less energy. But Swampert is also more versatile for the ability too. So Wailord, you're just kind of here because you're a fancy EX, and I want to add you into the deck. Now, since I'm going to make this a water and fairy deck, the card I'm choosing to add next is this Slurpuff. Now, the reason is, if you can read the ability, it says once during your turn before your attack, you may draw a card. And if Slurpuff is your active Pokemon, you can draw a second card as well. This is going to work so well with Swampert. Swampert will let me choose any card from my deck that I want and put it on top. Slurpuff will let me draw that card. So basically, I can choose any card from my deck on any given turn and take it. There are some cards that let you search for basic Pokemon, search for energy cards, this and that. This will let me choose any particular card. Now for anyone that has played against a deck that I have in the unlimited format, this is one of my older cards here, Pidgeot, with the Poke Power, which is what they used to call abilities. They were called Poke Powers and Poke Bodies back then. Essentially, it's the same thing. Quick Search would let me choose any card from my deck and put it into my hand, and then shuffle my deck. It didn't work if Pidgeot was affected by special condition, however. But still, in my other deck, the unlimited format, whenever I get Pidgeot into play, it's almost game over because I can just choose any card I want at any given time, and I can replicate that in a standard deck. Because unfortunately, this Pidgeot was released in the Fire Red Leaf Green expansion, which is no longer considered legal in the standard or expanded formats, but he's still fun to play with just in free play. So with the addition of the Slurpuff, you're going to want a couple of Swirlixes too, the basics. Now, what I was saying before about you can only have up to 4 of any named card, despite the fact that these 2 Swirlix are from different sets and have different attacks, the name is still the same up here. So you could have, if there was like 4 different versions of Swirlix with all different attacks, you could have one of each of those 4, but still the total number of Swirlix cannot go over 4. It's usually a good idea to run a couple of different versions of Swirlix, because like if one is more usable as a basic than the other can be used just to evolve into the evolved form. And looking at these 2, I would say this Swirlix is probably a little bit better because its tackle attack requires colorless energy, which means I can attach the water energy if I need to. But more often than not, these guys are not even going to really see battle, it's going to be the Slurpuff that we're focusing on. Now, another good addition to add into your custom decks would be colorless Pokemon, such as this Bouffalant. Most colorless, if not all colorless Pokemon, require any kind of energy to use their attacks, so that makes them really versatile and they can fit into any deck, regardless of energy type. And I'm choosing these two in particular because of the ability. As you might have seen from the Swampert and the Wailord-EX, I have a big weakness to grass Pokemon in this particular deck. Bouffalant's ability says its attacks do 40 more damage to your opponent's grass Pokemon before weakness and resistance. So if I do happen to be facing an opponent with grass Pokemon that would otherwise ruin the deck because they can take out my heavy hitter water types, Bouffalant could be here as a good backup. It could do 80 damage plus 40 more for the ability, so 120 against an opposing grass type. And of course the attack also says we can discard special energy attached to the opponent's active Pokemon. So pretty good addition to the deck there, nice HP, and a basic, so I'm just playing right to the bench. And depending on what energy types you're using for your deck, another addition you can make into your deck would be dragon types. And I'm choosing this here because Goodra requires water and fairy energy, which is what this deck is going to focus on. It's got a pretty powerful attack. It could do 120 just like Bouffalant, but I got to flip a coin for that. But also the ability here. As often as I like during my turn, I can discard an energy from Goodra and heal 60 damage from it. Essentially, I'm thinking of having Goodra and its previous forms as a stall tactic to sort of, basically take up or eat up hits and give me time to build up my other guys on the bench, which, for example, would be like the Swampert and Slurpuff, so that I can start drawing any cards I want. So we got Goodra with the ability, and we got Sliggoo that has the gooey attack for 1 energy, can heal 30 from itself, and even Goomy can heal 10 from itself with the first attack. So I'm adding 1 Goodra, 2 Sliggoos, and 4 Goomies. Now as you can see, sometimes Pokemon cards get released in later sets with the exact same attacks. The only difference would be the art on the card itself. And this one's from Flashfire, and this one is from Phantom Forces. So regardless of art, attacks, whatever, I can still only have up to 4 Goomies in my deck. So we're going to add these in here. And this will give us a total of 20 Pokemon in the deck. You see, got Dragon, Colorless, Fairy, and Water. So we whittle it down from 30 in the theme deck down to just 20 for my custom deck. So that's the first step of the deck building. Next up, we're going to talk trainer cards. So these are the 12 that come with the theme deck. These ones up in here, I'm not going to be using these. They are useful, but I've got other plans in mind for the trainers that I'm going to use, so we're just going to put them away. What I am choosing to keep, we have a Rough Seas, which will heal damage, 30 damage per turn from any water and electric Pokemon. Keeping an Evo Soda to help me get Swampert and Slurpuff into play a little bit faster. Tierno, which is always good for drawing cards. You can draw 3 per turn with him. Professor's Letter lets you search for 2 basic energy cards and put them in your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So the additions we're making for trainers, and I'm going to put 20 trainer cards in this deck as well, our first piece de resistance is the full art Archie's Ace in the Hole. As I said in the unboxing video for the trainer box, hard to use, but what this would really work well with is if I do happen to lose Swampert for whatever reason, I can use this, not even need to evolve back into Swampert. Swampert as a stage 2 can go directly on the bench and start using Diving Search once again. So we're going to add Archie. I'm going to add in another Evo Soda. And some of these cards are now coming from my older collection of stuff, such as the Goodra and everything there. So we got Evo Soda. I'm going to add another Rough Seas, because if I do have the Rough Seas in play and then my opponent plays another Stadium to discard it, I might want to get it back to keep healing my guys. So we're going to add that one in. And for some more card draw support, I'm going to add in a couple of Roller Skates. Not really a big fan of these, because it's a coin flip, and if you get heads, you draw 3 cards. If tails, you just lost a card. But good to have in your hand, because using Archie's Ace in the Hole, if you need to get rid of cards from your hand, you might want to hope for a tails. Like just flip and get tails. You've just gotten rid of a card. If Archie's the last one in your hand, you can then use them. And speaking of which, I'm going to add in a couple of Ultra Balls. These are really good cards with a bit of a drawback. You discard 2 other cards from your hand, but then search your deck for any Pokemon card and put it in your hand. So if I happen to have a hand of like Ultra Ball, 2 others, and then Archie, I can play the Ultra Ball, discard the other two, take, like, for example, Wailord-EX, and then I can use Archie to bring Swampert on the bench from the discard pile. And there was a switch card that came in the theme deck, but I'm going to swap it out for a couple of escape ropes. It basically works the same as the switch. I can choose to move my active Pokemon to the bench and bring someone else up, but it also makes my opponent do that, and it makes them do it first. So I can see what they're swapping in, and then I can bring up one of my guys from the bench appropriately. If they bring a grass type, I can bring up Bouffalant, possibly do 120 damage. And going along with the diving search, I'm including a Great Ball as well. As I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, it lets you search the top 7 cards of your deck, choose one Pokemon, and put it in your hand. If I've used Diving Search to find a particular Pokemon that I need, Great Ball can get it for me. Now we come to some support for the Wailord-EX. As you know, it falls asleep if it uses its attack. I'm going to include a couple of Pokemon tools, the Sparkling Robe. Any Pokemon that this card is attached to is immune to special conditions, such as sleep. So even if I have put myself to sleep with High Breaching, I think it's called, I can just throw this on next turn and I'll wake up Wailord right away. And I got a second one there in case the opponent has something that makes me discard a tool. I can put a second one on and then keep Wailord from falling asleep again. And just for a little bit more stadium support, I've included the Training Center. This will benefit my Stage 1 and Stage 2 Pokemon, such as Slurpuff and Swampert, by giving them 30 more HP while the Training Center is in play. And 2 of those, in case one gets discarded, I can still replace another one. So that is 20 trainer cards that are being added into the deck as well. Now let's get to the energy. So with 20 Pokemon, 20 trainers, that means I have space for 20 energy cards. Now the theme deck came with 6 fire energy, and since I no longer have fire Pokemon, I won't be needing these. That leaves me with, there's 12 water energy. Since I'm only going to be using fairy and water Pokemon, I'm going to be focusing on those 2 energy types. And with 20 cards left to fill the deck, I'm going to go with 10 of each. I've got 10 fairy here. Now, however, the thing is, I'm really not going to be focusing on fairy types for the attacking. Goodra, maybe, because it requires a fairy energy here to attack, but the majority of the battling is going to be the Wailord-EX and Swampert. So because of that, I'm actually going to tip the scales a little bit more towards water. I'm going to swap out 5 of the fairy energy for 5 more water energy. That gives me 15 water energy total, 5 fairy energy, 20 trainers, 20 Pokemon. That's a 60 card deck right there, all set to go. However, that's not enough. I've got more that I want to do. Now, like I said, some of the more impressive championship decks focus mostly on trainer cards. So I'm actually going to take a look at my first draft here and see how I can refine it and build up more, possibilities for cards that will help me win the game. So first thing is I'm going to include a couple of really useful cards. The Pokemon Fan Club. Essentially, if you happen to draw this card, it lets you search for 2 basic Pokemon and put them in your hand and then shuffle your deck up. I'm going to put 2 of these in because if I happen to draw this, it's almost as if I've drawn 2 basic Pokemon in that one draw. So because it is 2 basic Pokemon, I'm going to choose 2 basics to take out to replace with the fan clubs. Now, I probably don't need 4 of my stage 1s, so I'm going to get rid of 1 Goomy and 1 Mudkip. So that leaves me with 18 Pokemon and now 22 trainer cards. I'm going to put Archie over here so he doesn't get crushed by any other cards. Alright, so I just added that in there. Now, another thing I'm going to do is, as you know for Wailord's ability, if I attach an energy to it, it'll cure it of all special conditions. So, if I don't happen to have that Sparkling Robe tool, and I need to wake it up immediately, I can attach an energy from my hand, wake it up, and then it's ready to go. But if I don't want to waste an energy doing that, I'm going to include a couple of energy switch cards. So I can give an energy to Wailord, play an energy switch to move the energy I just gave it to someone else that can use it better. And I'm going to take out a couple of water energies to include the energy switches. Because essentially that's almost as if it's like an energy card in itself. You get to move it to wherever you want to. And another thing to try and keep Wailord-EX from falling asleep for the whole match is going to be a couple of Pokemon Center ladies. These are really useful because you get to heal 60 damage from a Pokemon and special conditions. So if Wailord's taken a hit, I can heal it for 60 and wake it up. And because this is sort of taking the place of its ability, I'm going to replace 2 more energies and put in Pokemon Center ladies. Now, I'm pretty much set here. There's only one more card I'm going to add in. This is a card I don't think you can get from theme decks. I think it's just in booster packs from certain expansions. That is the double colorless energy. Provides 2 of any, or not any, 2 colorless energy to whichever Pokemon you give it to. Mostly including it so that I can power up my Bouffalants a little bit quicker. Otherwise it's going to take 3 turns to power up Bouffalant. But if I give this to Bouffalant, I just need 1 more basic energy to power up its Derail attack. And since I've taken a lot of water energy out, I'm going to choose to take a fairy energy out and replace with the double colorless. And that is actually my whole deck. That's all set. And the fun part next would be to play test against somebody and see just how well it works out. So I think we're all set. Alright trainers, that's going to be it for this week's video. If you liked what you saw with the strategy going into the deck here, feel free to leave a comment below, let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions on what you think could make it even better, or if you have an idea for a deck of your own that could defeat this in glorious battle, feel free to leave a comment on that as well. And I think I'm going to go off and replicate this in Pokemon TCG Online and see how viable it is, and maybe I'll see some of you on there, and we'll have some battles. Alright, catch you later.